The Galactic Survey Fleet had traveled through hundreds of systems, cataloging planets, moons, and stars. For most crews, this work was routine. They scanned, they measured, and they moved on. Planets were often lifeless, covered in ice, or too hot to hold water. Sometimes they found worlds with strange plants or simple microbes, and very rarely they found advanced ecosystems. But never had they found a planet like this. When their scanners first touched the atmosphere, the machines went almost silent, and then the alarms began to sound. The readings came back wild, impossible, and terrifying. Gravity here was far higher than the standard safe range. The storms wrapped around the planet like giant claws. The temperature swung between freezing cold and burning heat in less than a day. The air was filled with chemicals that should have poisoned almost any living creature. Oceans roared with waves taller than buildings, and the continents cracked with earthquakes every few weeks. The classification computers gave their decision quickly: Class-15 Deathworld. The crew stared at the glowing symbol on their display screens. Class-15. Even saying the number aloud felt heavy. For the explorers, anything above Class 10 was considered unlivable. Most civilizations would never even dare to land on such a world. Their best ships, their strongest alloys, and their careful plans would all be broken by storms, floods, or quakes. No species could survive here, they thought. Captain Virali, leader of the mission, stood in silence at the command deck. She was from a species known for caution, with eyes like crystal and a voice calm as still water. Her kind had crossed the stars for thousands of years, always careful, always steady. Yet even she felt unease. A Class 15 planet was supposed to be just another number on a list. Something to mark as forbidden, then pass by without a second thought. But something about this world seemed different. "Run a long-range life scan," she ordered finally. Her crew obeyed, though many doubted. A few even whispered to each other, "There is no life here. Nothing can live through this." But they followed orders, and the scan began. The ship hummed as its sensors swept across the storms, the land, and the seas. At first, nothing unusual appeared. There were signs of simple life: plants clinging to the edges of cliffs, thick forests with twisted trees, and animals shaped by violence and danger. None of this was surprising. Even death worlds could create strong, wild ecosystems. But then the scanner caught something strange. Signals, faint at first but growing clearer. Rhythms, repeating patterns, impossible to mistake for anything natural. The crew froze. "Are those transmissions?" one officer whispered. The data scrolled across the screens. Yes, transmissions, carried through the air, across the storms. Messages bouncing from towers and devices. Languages, codes, and voices. They were faint only because the storms interfered, but they were strong enough to prove one thing: there was civilization here. The bridge went silent. Every officer looked to the captain, waiting for her response. Finally, Captain Virali spoke. "Set a stable orbit. Begin close observation." The fleet drew near the planet, braving the pull of its heavy gravity. As the clouds parted for a brief moment, they saw it. Cities shining beneath the chaos. Towers stood against the storms, built with stubborn strength. Lights burned even through the darkest nights. Ships crossed the oceans, leaving trails behind in waters full of monsters. Vast fields of crops grew in soil filled with toxins, somehow purified, somehow changed. The crew could hardly believe their eyes. "They are thriving," one whispered. "Impossible," said another. "How could they build all this? How could they live here?" The captain remained quiet, but inside her heart pounded. She had studied hundreds of worlds, but nothing had prepared her for this. Whoever lived here had defied every rule of survival. They were not just alive, they were strong, organized, and creative. She turned her gaze back to the main screen. "Identify the species." The computers worked quickly, comparing the shapes of the beings caught in orbital images. 2 arms, 2 legs, walking upright. No fur, no scales, only soft skin. Their bodies looked fragile compared to the storms around them. Yet they carried tools, wore armor, and guided machines. The database found a name, buried deep among old survey records. Humans. The captain read the word aloud, and the crew repeated it like a question. Most of them had never heard it before. The files described humans as a minor species known only in rumor, unimportant in the greater galaxy. Yet here they were, not only alive, but mastering a world the Council would never dare to touch. One officer spoke softly. If they can survive this, what else are they capable of? The question lingered in the air. No one could answer. For the next few days, the fleet observed in silence. They watched storms strike the human cities, only to see them rebuild with determination. They watched humans fish in waters full of jaws and teeth, laughing as they hauled their catch aboard. They watched children play in fields where the winds could sweep them away, yet they grew strong instead of weak. The more the crew saw, the more unsettled they became. Every instinct told them this was wrong. Life should not flourish here. But their eyes told them the truth. Humanity had claimed the impossible. And as the galactic fleet hovered above, Captain Virali realized something even more important. This discovery would change the galaxy. For centuries, the Council had believed that danger worlds were empty, that life could only exist on gentle, safe planets. But now a species had proven them wrong. A message had to be sent. Records had to be updated. The Council had to know. Still, the captain hesitated. She knew the truth. Once the Council learned of humanity's existence, the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. Far below, on the stormy surface, a group of humans gazed at the sky. They saw the strange lights of the survey fleet, moving through the clouds. They did not hide. They raised their hands, waved, and smiled. To them, this was not fear. This was not the end. It was simply the beginning. The storm that swept across the northern continents of the planet roared like an angry beast. Lightning forked across the sky, striking jagged cliffs and setting rivers of molten rock aflame. The galactic survey fleet hovered above the chaos, scanning, analyzing, and trying to make sense of what they had discovered. Yet despite the violent weather, life below moved with purpose, as if the storms were nothing more than passing inconveniences. Captain Virali and her crew stared in disbelief at the images streaming from their orbital drones. Humans moved with astonishing ease. Small groups climbed sheer cliffs to reach cliffside settlements. Others rowed boats across oceans whipped into white-capped fury. Children ran through shallow rivers while adults tended to strange structures built from rock and metal, defying gravity and the planet's crushing storms. The humans did not run, did not panic, and did not seem frightened at all. "They're living like this?" asked Lieutenant Narek, his eyes wide. "They should be dead." "They're thriving," Captain Virali said, her voice steady but thoughtful. "And they're organized. Look at how they're building. Look at how they're farming." The human cities spread across valleys and cliffs like veins of persistence, their walls and towers holding firm against earthquakes and tornadoes alike. Some of the structures appeared temporary, while others were permanent fortifications designed to last decades, perhaps centuries. The aliens could see vehicles moving along paths carved into mountainsides, and small aircraft that looked primitive, but maneuvered effortlessly through the storms. "Captain," called Officer Lyra, "I am picking up signals again. They're sending messages, communications, but not the kind we usually detect. It's more complex, layered, almost like a network of coordinated activity." Virali nodded. "Prepare a descent team. Carefully. We need to see them up close, but we cannot risk sending the whole fleet. One ship. Drones first, then a small landing party. Keep the shields up. Observe but do not interfere. And, most importantly, keep a safe distance." The chosen ship detached from the fleet. Its hull creaked under the planet's gravity, its engines straining against turbulent winds. On board, the landing party, 2 human specialists or xenobiologists, and 3 alien officers, watched as the planet's surface grew closer. Every sensor warned of danger: acidic rainfall, electrified air, and violent gusts that could easily flip a vehicle or crush fragile life forms. Yet the humans below moved with calm confidence, as if accustomed to what the aliens would have called apocalypse. The drone that scouted ahead showed a narrow valley between two cliffs. Humans had built a small village there, with houses made of interwoven stone and metal. Smoke rose from fires, not from chaos, but from kitchens. Children played on open ground, throwing sticks and rocks like games. Adults tended gardens, repaired buildings, and guided animals that the aliens recognized as domestic livestock, but adapted to survive the planet's harsh environment. Lieutenant Narek shook his head. They're fearless, or suicidal. Neither, Virali said. They're adapted. They're used to this. This is home. The landing ship touched down carefully, shields absorbing the first violent gusts of wind. The hatch opened, and the landing team prepared for the worst. Radiation levels were slightly higher than normal. Toxins in the air should have caused immediate illness, and the planet's storms continued to rage above. Yet when the hatch slid open, the aliens saw humans approaching, not with weapons, but with smiles and curious eyes. The tallest human, a woman with brown hair tied back and clothes that looked both functional and rugged, stepped forward. She extended her hand. "Hello there. You must be visitors from the sky. Welcome." The aliens froze. Most species would have hid, attacked, or ignored unknown beings, but not the humans. They spoke in clear tones, laughing lightly despite the howling wind. The ship's translator managed to interpret their words, and a stunned officer whispered, They're friendly? Do you need shelter?" the human woman asked. "The storm will be worse in the next hour." Captain Virali motioned for the landing party to hold. She remained in the ship's observation deck, eyes scanning the humans below. They were tall, strong, and clearly capable of surviving far beyond the limits known to most species. Their skin showed signs of exposure, sun, wind, and elements, but they were healthy, energetic, and alert. "Prepare a recorder," Virali ordered. "We need every detail. Document everything. This is history in the making." The humans led, the aliens through the village moving with a rhythm that was almost hypnotic. Children darted between their feet, laughing and shouting. Gardens flourished even in the rocky soil, protected by clever irrigation systems and windbreaks. The humans used simple tools but with skill that suggested a deep understanding of physics and nature. They built shelters for animals that could survive chemical storms, and their kitchens boiled water using heat from volcanic vents. One officer could not hide his amazement. They're surviving by understanding the planet, not fighting it. They work with the environment, not against it. Exactly, Virali said softly. She realized something profound. Most species relied on technology, on armor, on controlled habitats. Humans relied on ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Where other species would hide behind shields, humans embraced danger as a part of life. The first conversation between species began cautiously. The humans asked about the visitors' origin, their ships, their languages. They listened attentively, asking questions of their own. They were genuinely curious, not afraid, not condescending. Captain Virali realized that these humans were not just surviving, they were thriving intellectually, socially, and physically. Then came a demonstration. One of the villagers, a man with a wide grin, led the aliens to a cliffside path. Below, a river churned with giant waves and unseen predators. "This is our fishing spot," he said. He picked up a long spear and launched it into the rushing waters, striking with perfect timing. Another human jumped in, wading through waist-deep water to pull the catch out, grinning at the alien observers. "Do you always fish like this?" asked Lieutenant Narek, his voice trembling with awe. "Always," the human said. "The storm does not scare us. The river is part of life. We adapt." Captain Virali watched silently as humans displayed their skills. Where any other species would struggle, falter, or hide, these humans were calm, intelligent, and confident. They used clever tools, timing, and teamwork, relying not on strength alone, but on intuition and planning. Night fell, and the storm intensified. Lightning struck mountains and the winds tore through tents and trees. Yet humans continued their work, lighting fires, reinforcing buildings, and securing livestock. They moved with purpose, laughter, and resilience. To the aliens, it seemed almost impossible. To humans, it was ordinary. One alien officer finally asked, "Captain, how do they survive here?" Virali remained quiet. No database, no theory, no speculation could explain this. She realized that the answer was simple, but profound. Humans were meant to endure. Their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability made them capable of thriving in places the galaxy had declared impossible. The humans invited the landing party to share food, a simple meal of roasted root vegetables and river fish. The aliens ate, cautiously, expecting poison, toxins, or illness. Nothing happened. The humans explained how they prepared the food, filtered water, and neutralized toxins naturally. Every solution was clever, practical, and effective. By the time the storm finally subsided, the aliens had a new understanding. These humans were not weak, as most species assumed. They were not fragile or limited. They were strong in ways no one had predicted. The storms, the earthquakes, and the oceans that should have destroyed them had instead made them resourceful, clever, and resilient. Captain Virali returned to her ship, her mind racing. She sent a message to the Galactic Council. "We have discovered humans alive on a Class-15 Deathworld. They are thriving, intelligent, and remarkably capable. This discovery changes everything we know about survival and adaptability." The humans watched the fleet ascend back into orbit. They waved not in fear but in welcome. To them, visitors from the stars were just another part of life, another challenge to meet with curiosity and courage. Captain Virali, looking down at the tiny figures waving below, realized one simple truth. Humanity had turned the impossible into routine, and the galaxy was about to learn what it truly meant to survive. The humans had welcomed the aliens into their village, shared meals, and shown them the ways they survived the storms, earthquakes, and monstrous oceans. Yet for the Galactic Council, observing from orbit was not enough. Questions remained unanswered. How could a species survive here? How could they thrive in a place every other civilization would call uninhabitable? The Council demanded proof. They wanted experiments, tests, and clear evidence of human capabilities. Captain Virali hesitated. The humans had shown courage, skill, and intelligence, but would they allow themselves to be tested like lab specimens? Still, there was no turning back. Humanity's survival on a Class-15 Deathworld had already changed the Council's assumptions. They had to know the truth. The decision was made. A research station was deployed into orbit, equipped with advanced scanners, life support pods, and controlled environments to simulate the planet's most extreme conditions. Human volunteers were invited to participate. Surprisingly, they accepted, without hesitation. To them, tests were not a threat. They were just another challenge. The first trials were simple at first: endurance, balance, and reaction. Humans ran across simulated terrain that included crumbling cliffs, lightning strikes, and sudden gusts strong enough to knock most species off their feet. Aliens observed through reinforced glass and scanners, expecting to see exhaustion or failure. Yet humans moved with purpose, dodging obstacles, maintaining speed, and completing the course without hesitation. Lieutenant Narek whispered, How can they do this? Even our strongest species would collapse after the first few minutes." Captain Virali shook her head. "They don't just survive. They anticipate, adapt, and push forward. Their bodies and minds are designed for resilience." Next came the tests of mental acuity. Humans were given complex puzzles, some of them timed, some involving simultaneous coordination with teammates, and others requiring problem-solving under simulated stress, collapsing bridges, sudden storms, or limited oxygen. Each time, humans adapted strategies, communicated quickly, and solved problems in ways the Council had never predicted. Aliens took notes, but even they could not anticipate every clever solution. One simulation involved crossing a chasm too wide for a normal bridge. Most species would retreat. Humans paused briefly, observed the materials around them, and within minutes had constructed a cable and pulley system using ropes, planks, and their own body weight. The aliens watched in astonishment as they crossed safely, smiling as though it were a normal task. "Impressive," murmured Officer Lyra. "Not just clever, fearless and precise." The Council's tests grew more dangerous. Next came chemical resistance. Humans were exposed to toxins found in their own rivers and soil, substances that would incapacitate most beings within seconds. Instead of panic, the humans applied techniques of filtration, neutralization, and rapid analysis. They handled toxic liquids, used natural antidotes, and even identified ways to turn harmful substances into safe resources. One alien scientist, clearly overwhelmed, muttered, "They are engineering solutions faster than we expected. No other species can think this quickly under threat." Physical strength and stamina were tested next. Humans carried heavy loads across simulated flood zones and volcanic terrain. Some experiments involved sudden landslides, and yet humans displayed remarkable coordination. Where other species would stumble or panic, humans adapted their posture, redistributed weight, and worked together seamlessly. It was not brute strength alone. It was teamwork, intelligence, and instinct honed over generations of survival. The two aliens began to realize something profound. These humans had evolved not just to survive, but to turn danger into opportunity. Where storms destroyed, humans built. Where predators threatened, humans defended. Where resources were scarce, humans invented solutions. Captain Virali made her way to the observation deck as the final test commenced. The survival of humans, in complete isolation. Each volunteer was placed in an environment simulating the deadliest regions of their planet: unpredictable storms, earthquakes, and chemical hazards. Aliens expected to see panic, despair, or failure. Instead, humans moved calmly, analyzing the environment, improvising shelters, and finding water and food. Some built rafts to cross violent rivers. Others crafted tools to extract food from poisonous soil. They were resourceful beyond belief, resilient beyond imagination. Lieutenant Narek watched silently as hours passed. It's incredible. They thrive where any other species would perish." Captain Virali nodded. "We underestimated them. We assumed fragility. We assumed fear. We assumed limitation. But they are something entirely different." The final observation was the most telling. The aliens watched humans coordinating in groups, communicating efficiently, and solving complex survival problems in real time. They adapted strategies based on new threats, learned from each other's mistakes, and encouraged one another. Even under exhaustion, hunger, and extreme weather, humans remained determined, inventive, and remarkably composed. Officer Lyra whispered, "Captain, these humans, they are redefining what it means to survive, not just physically, but mentally. And socially, they are extraordinary." Captain Virali finally spoke aloud. "They are not just survivors. They are masters of adaptation. The galaxy has never seen a species like this." The results of the tests were sent immediately to the Galactic Council. The findings stunned every member. Reports described humans not as weak or primitive, but as resilient, inventive, and fearless. They were capable of thriving in conditions that would destroy any other life form. They had turned a Class-15 Deathworld into a home, using courage, ingenuity, and cooperation. Yet as the Council discussed next steps, doubts emerged. Some factions feared humans, seeing them as unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Others were fascinated, viewing them as a species of remarkable potential and strategic importance. Captain Virali, however, understood one thing more clearly than anyone. The humans below were unbreakable. Back on the planet, humans continued their daily lives, unaware of the debates in distant halls of power. They tended fields, repaired buildings, and guided the youngest children through challenges designed to teach resilience. To them, the tests had been an opportunity, not a burden. The planet's dangers had made them strong. Every storm, quake, and predator had been a teacher, and they had learned. When the orbital tests finally ended, Captain Virali gathered her crew. "We have learned more from them than we could have imagined," she said. "We came here expecting to witness survival. What we have witnessed is mastery. They do not fear their world, they own it." The crew nodded silently, each processing what they had seen. For centuries, the galaxy had underestimated humans. It was time to rethink everything. As night fell over the stormy valleys below, humans gathered around fires, telling stories of past storms and victories over impossible odds. Children listened eagerly, learning lessons of courage, creativity, and perseverance. The aliens watched from above, their recorders filled with data, yet understanding that no numbers could fully describe what they had witnessed. Humanity had survived, humanity had thrived, and humanity had shown the galaxy what true resilience looked like. The fleet would leave orbit soon, but the memory of humans enduring, adapting, and smiling amid chaos would remain with every officer. Captain Virali knew that when the Council learned the full extent of humanity's abilities, the galaxy would never underestimate them again. In that quiet, storm-battered valley, one truth had become undeniable. Humans were not fragile. Humans were extraordinary. And the galaxy was only beginning to realize it. News of the humans on the Class-15 Deathworld spread across the galaxy, faster than anyone could have imagined. Fleet officers, planetary governors, and scientists debated the implications. To some, humanity was an incredible example of resilience and ingenuity. To others, they were a threat, wild, unpredictable, and capable of surviving challenges that would destroy even the most advanced species. Captain Virali had returned to orbit several times, observing the humans from a safe distance. She had seen their courage, their intelligence, and their ability to thrive in the most extreme conditions. But the Council wanted more than observation. They demanded proof that humans could operate beyond their own planet. "Captain," said Officer Lyra, pointing to a holographic display, "there is a proposal on the table. The Council wants a demonstration. A test. In space. They want to see if humans can survive and perform in situations that require strategy, coordination, and courage outside their death world." Virali frowned. "They will agree? Will the humans even accept?" "They might," Lyra replied. "Based on what we've seen, humans view every challenge as an opportunity. Back on the planet, humans received the news with curiosity rather than fear. The Council requested a demonstration to repair a research station in orbit, one that had sustained severe damage from a meteor storm. The station's orbit was unstable, and if left unrepaired, it would fall into the planet's toxic atmosphere. Most species would have refused. Many would have considered it a suicide mission. But humanity saw a challenge, not a risk. Within days, a team of humans boarded an orbital shuttle, carefully checking suits, tools, and supplies. They trained in simulated zero-gravity chambers, practiced using magnetic boots, and reviewed emergency procedures for radiation bursts and mechanical failure. The aliens observing them noticed one striking detail. The humans did not panic. Even as their simulations grew dangerous, they remained calm, thinking clearly, improvising when obstacles arose. Lieutenant Narek shook his head. "They're calm in the face of certain death." "How is that possible?" Captain Virali replied. "They do not see it as certain death. To them, failure is temporary, a lesson. Every challenge has a solution." The shuttle launched, leaving the chaotic surface of the death world behind. Storms raged beneath them, volcanic lightning splitting the clouds, but the humans were focused, precise and ready. As they approached the damaged station, sensors detected debris and broken components. Some pieces were floating dangerously close to the station's hull. A wrong move could tear the station apart and kill the crew. The humans assessed the situation quickly. They identified structural weaknesses, determined the sequence of repairs and coordinated movements in the weightless environment. One human carefully maneuvered along a damaged truss, using a simple tool to realign metal beams. Another stabilized a section of the hull with magnetic clamps, while a third worked on rerouting the station's energy systems. The alien observers held their breath. Every step was dangerous. Any mistake could be fatal. But the humans moved with confidence, using ingenuity and teamwork to solve problems in real time. One officer whispered, This is incredible. They are performing tasks that our best engineers could not attempt without risk to life." Midway through the mission, a sudden meteor storm approached. Sensors warned of multiple high-velocity fragments, some larger than the shuttle itself. Most species would have retreated, abandoning the station to its fate. But the humans did not panic. Instead, they adapted. Using shields, quick maneuvers, and creative use of equipment, they deflected debris, secured vulnerable modules, and continued their repairs. Every action was calculated, precise, and effective. Captain Virali watched from the observation deck of a nearby ship. Her hand rested on the console, gripping it tightly. "They're not just surviving," she murmured. "They're mastering this." Hours passed, and the repairs neared completion. A final challenge remained: rerouting the main power core without triggering a catastrophic overload. The humans assessed the risk, debated the sequence, and then executed with flawless coordination. Lights flickered across the station, systems rebooted, and the orbit stabilized. A cheer erupted from the humans, though silent through their helmets. They had done the impossible. The station, once on the brink of destruction, now floated safely in orbit. The aliens were stunned into silence. Officer Lyra finally spoke. "They have turned a suicide mission into a routine task, and survived everything." Captain Virali nodded slowly. "And this is why the galaxy must see them differently. They do not fear impossible odds. They confront them and conquer them." Word of the humans' achievement spread quickly. Other species watched with awe, some with envy and a few with fear. Fleet commanders realized that humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and fearless. They could survive conditions no one else could imagine, and they could solve problems that would stump the most advanced engineers. Yet the humans themselves were unchanged. They returned to the Deathworld, greeted by children, families, and the storms that shaped their lives. To them, the orbital mission was another challenge completed, another lesson learned. They did not boast or demand praise. They simply accepted that danger was part of life, and skill, courage, and cooperation could overcome almost anything. Captain Virali watched them from orbit one last time before leaving. She sent a message to the Galactic Council. "The humans have completed a mission considered impossible by all known species. They have survived the environment, dangers, and technical challenges with skill, courage, and adaptability. Any underestimation of this species would be catastrophic." The Council debated what to do next. Some argued for alliances, seeing humans as valuable partners. Others saw potential threats, fearing their resourcefulness and fearlessness. Yet one thing became clear: no one could ignore humans anymore. On the Deathworld, humans prepared for the next day. Children trained in the fields, learning coordination and problem-solving. Adults repaired homes, tended crops, and monitored storms. Life continued with quiet determination. To them, every day was a challenge, every challenge a lesson, every lesson a step toward mastery of their world and beyond. The storm raged in the distance, mountains trembled with earthquakes, and oceans churned with monstrous waves. Yet humans stood calmly, observing, planning, and preparing. They were not just survivors of a Class-15 Deathworld, they were masters of survival itself. Captain Virali knew one simple truth: if humanity could face a planet designed to destroy life and then operate in the deadly void of space, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not only enduring, they were extraordinary. And somewhere deep within the Deathworld storms, humans looked to the stars, ready for whatever challenge the universe would send next. The galaxy was never the same after the discovery of humans on the Class-15 Deathworld. News spread across systems, fleets, and councils. Some saw humanity as a curiosity, others as a marvel, and a few even whispered fearfully about what this species could achieve. No matter the opinion, one truth became undeniable. Humans had proven themselves in ways no other species had. Captain Virali's fleet returned to orbit above the Deathworld for a final assessment. The humans had completed every task set before them, surviving their harsh world, thriving amid storms, and even mastering a dangerous orbital mission. But Virali knew this was only the beginning. To truly understand humanity, the galaxy had to see them not just in tests, but in action, in life, in struggle. The humans themselves had little interest in fame or recognition. Life on their planet continued with calm determination. Children ran through open fields, learning lessons in balance, coordination, and observation. Adults repaired structures, tended crops, and monitored the ever-changing weather. The planet's dangers were constant teachers, and humans had learned every lesson well. Yet even as they focused on their daily lives, humans began to notice the fleets in orbit, the strange ships moving cautiously above the storms. They did not panic. Instead, they observed and studied the visitors with curiosity. A tall human man standing on a cliff against hurricane winds turned to his companions and said, "Visitors again. Let's see what they've learned from us this time." The alien observers had one mission in mind: to understand, evaluate, and, if necessary, contain humanity. But each new encounter only confirmed the same pattern. Humans were resourceful, fearless, and remarkably adaptive. One of the first tests of this new interaction came unexpectedly. A minor research station in a neighboring system had malfunctioned, its orbit slowly deteriorating toward a planet with an unstable atmosphere. The Galactic Council debated who could repair it. Most species feared sending anyone, claiming the risks were too high. But humans, once again, volunteered. The mission began with careful preparation. Humans studied blueprints, trained in zero-gravity chambers, and reviewed emergency protocols. Unlike others, they did not overcomplicate the process with layers of bureaucracy or hesitation. Every movement was deliberate, every decision swift, every action aimed at solving the problem. The journey to the station was filled with minor dangers: debris fields, radiation bursts, and unstable orbits. Humans adapted at every step, coordinating with precision, adjusting routes in real time, and predicting obstacles before they became threats. The alien observers were astonished. Even the most advanced fleets in the galaxy had never seen such instinctive problem-solving under extreme stress. When the humans arrived at the station, the real challenge began. Systems were damaged, structural components were loose, and a radiation leak threatened anyone who approached. Most species would have retreated, waiting for specialized repair crews with decades of training. Humans, however, assessed the situation calmly. Using improvised tools, protective measures, and clever coordination, they began repairs. One human technician, a woman with nimble hands and sharp eyes, worked on rerouting power cables while floating through zero gravity. Another stabilized panels using magnetic clamps, carefully navigating around radiation bursts. A third monitored the station's orbit and systems, providing instructions and encouragement. Every task was dangerous, yet every action was precise. Lieutenant Narek, observing from the command deck of the orbiting fleet, muttered, They're rewriting the rules. No one else could do this. No one." Captain Virali nodded silently. She understood now what the galaxy had only begun to realize. Humanity was not just capable of surviving extreme conditions, they excelled in them. Their intelligence, courage, and adaptability were unmatched. Hours passed and the station was stabilized. Lights returned to control panels, orbit corrected, and systems rebooted. The mission, considered nearly impossible, had been completed flawlessly. As humans floated back to their shuttle, One of them glanced toward the observation fleet. "We did what needed to be done," he said simply. "Nothing more." Back on the Deathworld, the humans returned to their planet with quiet satisfaction. Children ran through fields, learning coordination and resilience through play. Adults repaired homes, tended gardens, and reinforced shelters against the next storm. Life continued, each day a new opportunity to adapt and improve. Captain Virali watched from orbit as humans moved through their world. She sent a report to the Galactic Council, her message brief but clear. Humans have completed a mission deemed impossible by all known species. Their abilities in adaptation, problem-solving, and courage exceed any records. They are a species that cannot be underestimated. The Council convened. Debates raged across systems. Some factions saw humans as partners, allies capable of contributing to scientific, military, and exploration efforts. Others feared their unpredictability, their ability to thrive where others failed, and their resilience in the face of danger. One thing was clear: the galaxy could no longer ignore humanity. On the Deathworld, humans continued their lives as if nothing had changed. They did not seek recognition or reward. To them, challenges were lessons, danger was a teacher, and survival was simply part of life. Every storm, every earthquake, every predator had shaped them into something extraordinary. They had learned to endure, to adapt, and to thrive. Captain Virali reflected on what she had witnessed. Humanity was not just a survivor species. They were innovators, strategists, and pioneers. They had taken the harshest planet known and made it home. They had faced near certain death in space and turned it into achievement. The galaxy was beginning to understand a profound truth. If humans could master a Class-15 Deathworld, nothing could truly defeat them. Other species began to visit the Deathworld cautiously, some seeking alliances, others studying the humans' techniques. Yet humans remained the same, curious, clever, and fearless. They taught, demonstrated, and shared, but always on their terms, showing the galaxy that their strength came not from weapons or technology alone, but from resilience, intelligence, and unity. Over time, humanity's reputation grew. Tales of their exploits spread across systems, surviving the most dangerous planets, repairing stations in orbit, and mastering challenges no other species could face. To some, they were heroes. To others, a reminder that true strength was not always obvious. To everyone, humans had become a symbol of endurance, courage, and ingenuity. Captain Virali looked at the planet one last time before leaving orbit. The outbreak, storms raged, volcanoes smoked, and oceans churned, but humans moved through it all with calm determination. They were ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in essence, and the galaxy would never forget it. As the fleet departed, humans on the surface raised their eyes to the stars. They waved to the distant ships, not out of fear or expectation, but in greeting. Life on their Deathworld continued. Storms came and went, and challenges arose daily. Yet humanity faced every trial with one simple truth. They were masters of survival, and nothing could break them. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Other species had evolved in safe, comfortable worlds, seeking order, protection, and limits. Humanity had evolved in chaos, danger, and unpredictability, and they had thrived. Their strength lay not only in their bodies or technology, but in their minds, hearts, and spirits. They faced the impossible not with fear but with ingenuity and courage, and so a new reputation was born. Humans were no longer merely a species on a Deathworld. They were a force, a challenge, and a symbol of what was possible when resilience, courage, and intelligence combined. Captain Virali sent her final message to the Council. If a Class-15 Deathworld could not break humanity, nothing else in the galaxy ever will. They are extraordinary, and the galaxy must acknowledge it. The humans watched the stars, ready for the next challenge, smiling at the unknown, and prepared to meet the universe on their own terms. They had survived the impossible. They had proven their strength. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.